Have you ever noticed how people sometimes return when you stop chasing them? It's as if the moment you create distance, they suddenly realize your value. This isn't just coincidence. It's human nature at play, deeply rooted in psychology and philosophy. Picture this. You've been giving everything to someone, time, energy, and attention. But instead of drawing closer, they seem to drift further away. Frustrating, right? Then you decide to step back. You stop trying so hard. And out of nowhere, they're back, curious, reaching out, wanting to reconnect. What changed? The answer lies in understanding the power of space and the wisdom of Stoicism. Stoicism teaches us that strength comes from within. It's about mastering yourself, not controlling others. When you give someone distance, you're not being cold or manipulative. You're showing emotional independence. You're saying, I value myself enough to not chase validation. That kind of confidence speaks volumes, often louder than any words or actions ever could. Think of it like a rubber band. The more you pull, the tighter it feels, and eventually it snaps. But if you let it go, it naturally relaxes and restores balance. Relationships work in much the same way. By stepping back, you allow tension to ease and curiosity to grow. People start to wonder about you, miss your presence, and question what they've been taking for granted. This idea isn't new. It's as old as the ancient Stoics. They believed in the virtue of self-control, especially in matters of emotion and attachment. By practicing restraint, you demonstrate that you are in control of your feelings, not a slave to them. This quiet strength is rare and deeply attractive. When you give someone distance, you're also creating space for them to reflect. In a world that's constantly noisy and demanding, silence can be powerful. It forces others to confront the absence of your presence and appreciate what you bring to their lives. It's not about disappearing. It's about giving them the chance to miss you. Think of scarcity. When something is always available, it's easy to overlook, but when it's rare, it becomes more valuable. By pulling back, you remind them that your time and energy are precious. You're no longer chasing. They're drawn to you because they recognize your worth. The power of distance isn't just about psychology, it's about alignment. When you stop chasing, you shift the dynamic. Instead of pushing for their attention, you focus on yourself, your goals, passions, and growth. This shift in energy is magnetic. People are drawn to those who are secure and fulfilled within themselves. So why do they come back after you give them distance? Because they're drawn to your strength, your independence, and the mystery you create. By stepping back, you show that you're not dependent on their approval, and that's exactly why they feel compelled to return. Get ready to dive deeper into this concept. We'll explore how Stoic principles like self-discipline and emotional mastery can transform not just your relationships, but your entire approach to life. Stick around, because sometimes less really is more. And don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button for more transformative insights into your relationships. Number 1. When distance reveals your true worth. Imagine this, a rare and priceless painting left hanging in the same spot for years. Over time, it fades into the background, barely noticed. But the moment it's removed, its absence is striking, and everyone starts to appreciate what was once overlooked. That's what happens when you step back and create distance in a relationship. Your absence gives others the chance to finally see your true value. When you're constantly available, people can unintentionally take you for granted. It's not about malice or carelessness, it's just human nature. We often fail to notice the value of something that's always there. But when you pull back, it forces reflection. It's in that space, in that quiet, that your worth begins to shine. The little things, your kindness, your support, the way you made their bad days brighter, start to come to mind. These moments, once dismissed as ordinary, suddenly take on new meaning. Your absence becomes a mirror, showing them everything they had but didn't fully appreciate. This isn't about manipulation or games. It's about reclaiming your sense of self. The ancient Stoics believed that true strength comes from within, not from the opinions or actions of others. When you stop chasing someone's attention, you take back control of your own happiness. You're no longer seeking their validation, you're finding value in yourself. Think of it like a candle in the dark. When the room is lit, its flame may seem small and insignificant. But the moment the lights go out, that same flame becomes vital, illuminating everything around it. By stepping back, you give others the chance to see how much light you brought into their lives. While they're left to reflect on the void your absence creates, you're out building your own life, pursuing your passions, focusing on your goals, and investing in your growth. This isn't just about making them miss you. It's about reminding yourself that your worth doesn't depend on anyone else's recognition. As time passes, they start to see things differently. The memories of your laughter, your warmth, and your steady presence become impossible to ignore. They begin to connect the dots, realizing that you weren't just part of their life. You were the foundation of some of their happiest moments. And when they do come back, it won't be because you begged for their attention. It'll be because they've truly seen what they lost. Your strength in stepping back, your refusal to settle for being taken for granted is what makes them realize your value. So ask yourself, are you living to be noticed, or are you living to be fulfilled? By creating distance, you're not just stepping away, you're stepping into your power. You're allowing your true worth to be seen, not because you demanded it, but because you gave them the space to discover it for themselves. And that's where your strength lies, not in chasing anyone's approval, but in knowing that your value is undeniable, with or without their recognition. When distance reveals your true worth, you're no longer the one waiting to be found. You're the one they can't afford to lose. Number 2, the magnetism of mystery. They say absence makes the heart grow fonder, and while it might sound cliché, there's a deep truth in it, especially when combined with the wisdom of Stoicism. When you step back, you're not just creating physical distance, you're crafting an air of mystery, igniting curiosity, and most importantly, building your value. Imagine this. You stop the endless texting, the constant calling, and the effort to prove yourself. Instead, you shift your focus inward, toward your goals, your passions, and your personal growth. This isn't about playing hard to get. It's about genuinely redirecting your energy toward becoming the best version of yourself. From a Stoic perspective, this is where your strength lies. You're no longer seeking validation from her or anyone else. Instead, your purpose becomes your anchor, and this quiet confidence speaks louder than any words could. Now think about how she perceives this change. Your once frequent messages become rare. You're no longer immediately available. This sparks something in her, curiosity. She begins to wonder about you. What are you doing? Who are you becoming? The space you've created lets her imagination run wild, and in that mystery, a new kind of attraction takes root. Picture a storybook character shrouded in intrigue, the quiet hero who doesn't seek attention but draws it effortlessly. By stepping back, you become that character in her mind. She starts to see you in a new light, rediscovering the qualities that first drew her to you. Your wit, your determination, your humor. It's as if she's meeting you all over again, but this time with a deeper appreciation for who you truly are. Stoicism teaches us a powerful truth. External approval is beyond our control. We can't force someone to value us, but we can control our actions, our responses, and our mindset. By stepping back, you're embodying this philosophy. You show her, without words, that your happiness doesn't hinge on her attention. You're calm, composed, and secure in yourself, and that self-assurance is magnetic. This isn't about creating distance to manipulate her feelings. It's about respecting yourself enough to let things unfold naturally. When you stop making her the center of your world, you create a gap, and in that space, her interest grows. She starts to wonder why you've stepped back, what you're focusing on, and who you're becoming. This mystery draws her in, and suddenly, you're no longer the one chasing. It's like a beautiful melody you hear from afar. It's not the loudest or most obvious sound, but it lingers in your mind, drawing you closer. That's what happens when you stop pushing for her attention and let your presence speak for itself. In the end, this isn't just about her, it's about you. You're living in alignment with a Stoic truth. Your value doesn't depend on anyone's approval. You've taken the strongest move by making no move at all. And in doing so, you've created the perfect conditions for her attraction to grow naturally, free from pressure or pretense. That's the paradox of attraction, a quiet strength that speaks volumes. Number 3, the puzzle that keeps her thinking. Picture this. You've been chasing her like a kite on a windy day, always the one to send the first message, to linger in her favorite spots, hoping for a chance to be noticed. Every morning starts with a text from you. Every evening ends with you wondering if she even cares. Then, one day, you stop. No more good morning messages, no more coincidental meetups. It's like you've disappeared, leaving behind an unexpected silence. What do you think happens next? This is where the game changes. By stepping back, you disrupt the rhythm she's grown used to. You're no longer the predictable presence in her life, and suddenly her mind starts buzzing with questions. Why hasn't he texted? Where did he go? What's he doing? Curiosity, as they say, killed the cat, but in this case, it captivates her. When you cease the chase, when you step away, you become an enigma, a mystery she's compelled to solve. It's not about playing games, it's about recognizing a fundamental truth of human nature. People are intrigued by what feels just out of reach. From a Stoic perspective, this shift is profoundly empowering. Instead of clinging to an outcome or trying to control how she feels, you embrace detachment. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." By stepping back, you're not only giving her space to think about you, you're reclaiming your own peace of mind. Consider this. When something is always available, it's easy to take it for granted. But when it disappears, its absence creates a void. It's like taking a painting off the wall. The empty space suddenly feels louder than the painting ever did. That's the space you've created in her mind. In that silence, she begins to wonder about you, where you've gone, what you're doing, and why you're no longer reaching out. Think of yourself as a mystery novel left unfinished. The last chapter was never read, and now it lingers in her mind, begging for closure. Each unanswered question makes her think of you more. It's not because you're trying to manipulate her feelings. It's because you've chosen to stop chasing and start living your own life. As her curiosity grows, so does her intrigue. She might find herself checking her phone for a text that isn't there, or feeling a pang of surprise when your name comes up in conversation. Suddenly, you're not just the guy who was always there. You're the man she doesn't quite understand, the man she finds herself drawn to in a way she can't explain. And here's the paradox. By stepping back, by removing yourself from her radar, you've become the center of her attention. She's no longer taking your presence for granted, because she's no longer sure she has it. And that uncertainty is magnetic. From a Stoic lens, this is the essence of detachment. You're no longer tying your sense of self-worth to her attention or approval. Instead, you're focusing on what you can control: your growth, your passions, and your happiness. This quiet self-assurance radiates outward, and people naturally gravitate toward that kind of energy. Now, she's the one wondering if she's missed something, if she might have taken you for granted, if you've moved on to someone or something new. That's the power of curiosity. It pulls her closer without you lifting a finger. But this isn't just about her. It's about you. By stepping back, you're not only giving her the space to see your value, you're also giving yourself the chance to live in alignment with your own worth. You're no longer chasing, you're creating. You're no longer seeking validation, you're living with purpose. Ask yourself, have you been the one doing all the chasing? What would happen if you stepped back and let curiosity do the work for you? When you stop being the constant, you start becoming the mystery. And that's when everything shifts. She begins to see you not as the person who always needed her attention, but as the man she can't stop thinking about. And when she finally reaches out, it won't be because you begged for her interest. It'll be because you became the puzzle she couldn't resist solving. In that moment, you've flipped the script, and the power is yours. Number 4. When silence becomes the mirror. Imagine this. You step back from a relationship, no longer chasing, no longer filling the spaces with constant engagement. At first, it feels like your absence might fade quietly into the background, but instead, it becomes a powerful catalyst for something profound: self-reflection. It's as if your silence holds up a mirror, and for the first time, she's seeing herself from a completely different perspective. She begins to replay moments in her mind, dissecting past conversations and interactions. Was she too distant? Did she dismiss your efforts without realizing it? Were her responses colder than they should have been? Your absence becomes a kind of courtroom where she stands as both judge and accused, examining her actions and questioning her role in the distance between you. This isn't just a fleeting thought. It's a deep dive into her behavior. She replays your laughter, revisits the times you made her feel cared for, and wonders if she took those moments for granted. The silence you've left behind starts to echo, filling her mind with questions she didn't think to ask before. Why does this happen? Because stepping back creates a vacuum, a gap where your presence used to be. That emptiness doesn't just go unnoticed. It prompts her to evaluate the dynamic between you. It's human nature to reflect on what we lose or risk losing. And in that reflection, she begins to uncover truths about herself and the connection you shared. This is where Stoicism shines. By pulling back, you demonstrate emotional restraint and self-control, two fundamental virtues of Stoic philosophy. You're not reacting with desperation or scrambling to fix things. Instead, you're allowing the situation to unfold naturally, trusting that the truth will surface in its own time. As Epictetus wisely said, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." Your response is one of calm detachment. You've chosen not to chase, but to let her draw her own conclusions. This silence isn't a strategy to manipulate her. It's an expression of your inner strength and confidence. During this period of reflection, something powerful begins to happen within her. She might realize that she didn't invest as much as she could have, or that she dismissed your efforts too quickly. She starts to see your absence not as a loss, but as a wake-up call. Perhaps she even recognizes her own shortcomings and begins to grow from them. This is the beauty of giving someone space. It allows them the opportunity to change on their own terms. And while she's reflecting, you're not standing still. You're living your life, pursuing your goals, and growing into an even better version of yourself. You embody resilience, demonstrating that your worth doesn't hinge on anyone else's validation. And when the time comes to reconnect, something remarkable often emerges. She's more attentive, more appreciative, and more conscious of how she values you. Your absence has helped her see what she might have been taking for granted, and now the dynamic has shifted in your favor. This isn't just about winning her back. It's about creating a healthier foundation for both of you. By stepping away, you've given her the space to grow, to reflect, and to understand what you bring to her life. And in doing so, you've also reinforced your own strength, proving to yourself that your happiness comes from within. So, when you step back, remember this: you're not losing, you're creating an opportunity for transformation, both hers and yours. Your silence becomes a mirror, reflecting the truth of your value and her role in the connection. And when she realizes what she stands to lose, it's no longer about chasing, it's about choosing. And that, my friend, is the essence of Stoic power in relationships. Number 5. When the quiet makes her listen. Imagine this: your consistent presence in her life, your conversations, your companionship, your care, has been like background music, always playing, always there, but rarely noticed. Now, imagine you turn the music off. The silence that follows is not just noticeable, it's striking. It makes her realize just how much that steady melody meant. This is what happens when you step back. The void you leave behind doesn't simply fade into the noise of her daily life. It stands out, demanding her attention. Suddenly, she starts to reflect. Those chats that once seemed routine. She misses how they lifted her spirits, your calm presence that brought her peace. She notices its absence. What was once overlooked now feels essential. This isn't just psychology at work. It's a powerful lesson rooted in Stoicism. The Stoics teach us to focus on what we can control and to let go of what lies beyond our grasp. By stepping back, you embody this principle. You're not trying to manipulate her feelings or force her to see your value. Instead, you're giving her the space to recognize it on her own. Take this as an example. Imagine you're always the one calling a friend to hang out. Over time, they might take your initiative for granted, assuming you'll always be the one to reach out. But what happens if you stop? That quiet gap forces them to question your absence. They might start to miss the good times you shared, appreciating your effort in a way they hadn't before. The same dynamic applies here. When you step back, she's given the opportunity to notice the ways you enhanced her life. This is not about being manipulative. It's about allowing her to come to these realizations naturally. Your absence prompts her to adjust her focus, to reevaluate what you meant to her, and to consider why she didn't value you fully before. This shift isn't just a passing thought. It's a realignment of priorities. When she starts to include you more meaningfully in her life, it's no longer just about curiosity. It's about commitment. She's recognizing your role, not as someone who constantly chases her, but as someone worth holding on to. By stepping back, you're showing emotional strength and self-respect, qualities that command admiration. You're living the Stoic ideal of detachment, trusting that what is meant to be will unfold naturally. As Epictetus wisely observed, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. And here's the beauty. When she adjusts her focus, it's because she genuinely wants to. She sees your worth, not because you forced her to, but because you gave her the freedom to come to that realization on her own. So ask yourself, are you constantly trying to prove your value, or are you allowing others to discover it in their own time? Sometimes, the strongest move you can make is to simply step back. Let the quiet speak for itself. In that silence, she hears what she's been missing. And when she decides to refocus her attention, it's no longer just about interest. It's about intent. Number 6. When distance unveils her heart. Imagine tirelessly trying to win her over, investing in every conversation, every gesture, every moment you can offer. You're constantly there, pouring your energy into making her notice, making her care. Then, one day, you stop. Not out of frustration, not in anger, but from a deeper understanding, a wisdom drawn from within. You realize that by stepping back, you're not giving up. Instead, you're giving her the space to truly reflect. This is where the magic happens. Your sudden absence shifts the entire dynamic. You're no longer readily available, no longer the one filling the silences or seeking her attention. And just like that, the focus shifts, not outward, but inward. For her, this becomes a turning point. When you step back, it's as though you've lit a spark in her mind, a tiny flame that begins to grow. Without your constant presence, she's left with something she might not have experienced before, the chance to sit with her own emotions. Stoicism teaches us the power of letting go, of not clinging to what we can't control, but instead focusing on our internal strength, our behaviors, and our mindset. By ceasing the chase, you stop trying to force a response or reaction. You detach from the outcome and shift your energy toward yourself, your growth, your resilience, your peace of mind. And here's the paradox. Your absence becomes the catalyst for her realization. When you were always there, always calling, texting, and showing up, she never had to think too deeply about your role in her life. Your presence was simply a given, something easy to overlook. But now, with the quiet you've left behind, she's confronted by a void she can't ignore. Nature abhors a vacuum, and so does the human heart. She begins to notice the things she once dismissed, the way your words brought her laughter, the comfort she felt knowing you were there, the stability you provided without asking for anything in return. It's as if the movie of your connection is paused, and she's re-watching the scenes that mattered most, realizing just how much they shaped her world. This is where Stoic wisdom shines. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Your absence, once seen as a loss, becomes the very thing that pushes her to confront her feelings. She might smile at a memory of you, feel the silence in her phone without your messages, or catch herself wondering where you are and who you're with. Each small realization builds upon the last, leading her to a powerful understanding. Your presence added something invaluable to her life, a truth she couldn't see until you were no longer there. This process isn't instant, it's gradual. Like embers building into a flame, her emotions slowly rise to the surface. She starts to feel the weight of your absence, not as a punishment, but as a mirror reflecting her own emotions back at her. She begins to understand what she had and what she might lose if she doesn't act. The beauty of this realization lies in its authenticity. You didn't beg for her attention, plead for her affection, or manipulate her feelings. Instead, you stepped back and allowed her to reach this place on her own. And when she does, it's all the more meaningful because it was her choice, not your persuasion. Gentlemen, sometimes the most powerful way to capture her heart isn't by trying harder, but by stepping away. Let her feel your absence, let her sit with her emotions, and let her realize, on her own, what she stands to lose. That's the quiet strength of Stoicism in action. You control yourself, focus on your inner world, and trust that everything else will fall into place. When she reaches that moment of clarity, it won't just be a fleeting thought. It'll be a profound shift, born from her own understanding. And that, my friend, is when she truly comes to see the value of what she had and what she's been missing all along. Number 7. The fear of losing what was always there. Imagine this. You've stopped chasing her. The messages, the check-ins, the little moments of effort you always offered are no longer there. It's not out of anger or frustration, it's a deliberate choice. And suddenly, the game changes. She begins to notice the shift. Where there was once certainty, now there's doubt. Where there was consistency, now there's space. And in that space, a new feeling takes hold, the worry of losing you. This worry isn't just a fleeting thought, it's a deep psychological response. Humans naturally value what seems just out of reach. When something we've grown accustomed to starts slipping away, it sparks a sense of urgency. What was once taken for granted now feels precious, even essential. By stepping back, you've unintentionally elevated yourself from being readily available to being something rare and coveted. Think of it like a favorite song you hear every day. Over time, its beauty blends into the background. But when it's gone, the silence feels deafening, and suddenly that song is all you want to hear. This is the effect your absence creates. Without your constant presence, she's left with questions. Why has he pulled away? Did I do something wrong? Has he moved on? This uncertainty leads her to check her phone more often, hoping for a text that doesn't come as frequently. She might start replaying old conversations, dissecting your interactions, and wondering what she could have done differently. It's in these moments that her worry intensifies. She begins to feel the weight of your absence and, more importantly, starts to fear what losing you could mean. Here's where the principles of Stoicism come into play. By stepping back, you're practicing emotional self-control. You're showing that your self-worth doesn't depend on her attention or approval. As the Stoics teach, true strength comes from within. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." By detaching yourself from the outcome, you're embodying this philosophy. This doesn't mean you've stopped caring, it means you've stopped forcing. You're not chasing, pleading, or trying to control her emotions. Instead, you're focusing on yourself, your growth, your peace, and your purpose. And that self-assuredness is magnetic. As her worry grows, it often leads to action. She might start initiating conversations, reaching out, or even trying to reignite the connection. The roles reverse. Where you once pursued her, she now finds herself stepping forward. This isn't manipulation. It's a natural rebalancing of effort. By stepping back, you've given her the space to reflect and the opportunity to show her interest. Think of it like a flame. If you smother it with too much effort, it struggles to burn. But if you give it air, it grows stronger. Your absence gives her room to realize the value of your presence. It's not about playing games, it's about creating balance. This dynamic is powerful, but it comes with responsibility. As a Stoic, your motivation should always be rooted in self-respect, not control. Stepping back isn't about manipulating her feelings, it's about honoring your worth. You're not trying to make her fear losing you. You're giving her the chance to recognize what she stands to gain by valuing you. In the end, the worry of losing you is effective because it's genuine. It reflects the truth that you are whole and complete on your own. Your happiness isn't tied to her attention, and that independence is what makes you truly attractive. So take a moment to reflect. Have you ever noticed how stepping back can shift the dynamics in a relationship? It's fascinating how creating space allows others to reassess and appreciate what they may have overlooked. By choosing not to chase, you give both yourself and her the freedom to act from a place of authenticity. And when she realizes what she might be losing, it won't be because you begged her to notice. It'll be because she chose to. That's the power of knowing your worth and letting go of the need to prove it. True strength lies in stepping back, trusting the process, and allowing her to come to her own understanding. Number 8. Lighting the spark of competition. Imagine this. You've always been the one chasing her, tilting the balance of effort entirely in her favor. She's had the luxury of soaking up your attention without lifting a finger. But then, you step back. You stop the pursuit. Suddenly, the dynamics shift. The certainty she once had about your attention is gone, replaced by a new and unfamiliar feeling, the urge to win you over. The game has changed, and now she's the one wondering where she stands with you. But it's not just about her wanting to catch your eye. It's about proving something to herself. There's a subtle but powerful drive to demonstrate that she's worthy of your time, your energy, and your focus. Your absence has stirred something deep within her, a competitive edge. This isn't just jealousy, though that might play a small role. It's more about her realizing that your attention isn't guaranteed, and the uncertainty of whether someone else might now capture your interest only adds fuel to the fire. You might notice her making extra effort, taking more care in her appearance, showing interest in your hobbies, or suddenly engaging in your favorite topics. She's trying to remind you, and perhaps herself, why you were drawn to her in the first place. Here's the paradox. The less you pursue, the more she steps up. Your distance creates a challenge, and her natural competitive instincts push her to rise to it. She's no longer just coasting on your efforts. She's actively striving to bridge the gap. This isn't just about winning your attention, it's about self-improvement. The more she tries to impress you, the more she ends up growing as a person, even if she doesn't fully realize it. And this is where Stoicism weaves into the equation. Stoic wisdom teaches us to focus on what we can control, ourselves, while letting go of external outcomes. By stepping back, you're not playing games or trying to manipulate her feelings. You're practicing self-control, patience, and inner confidence. You're showing her that your value doesn't depend on her approval. As Marcus Aurelius once said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. By maintaining this calm detachment, you exude a quiet confidence that's deeply attractive. She sees that you're content with yourself, that you don't need to chase validation, and that if she doesn't step forward, someone else just might. This realization ignites her competitive edge. She doesn't want to lose you to someone else, and she doesn't want to feel like she didn't measure up. The result? She starts to take action, making moves to capture your attention and show you her worth. But this shift isn't just about her, it's about you. By stepping back, you're embodying the Stoic ideal of inner peace and self-reliance. You're not chasing anyone, you're allowing things to unfold naturally. In this space, she either rises to meet you, or you move on with confidence, knowing your value was never dependent on her. So, take a moment to reflect. Have you been overextending yourself, trying to win someone over? What would happen if you simply stepped back and let them come to you? Sometimes the most powerful move is no move at all, and in that quiet, confident space, you spark something unexpected, her drive to compete for what she didn't realize she could lose. That's the power of knowing your worth and letting others discover it on their own terms. Sometimes, the most profound way to capture someone's attention is by stepping away. This isn't about shifting gears for the sake of change. It's about rediscovering your value and holding on to your self-respect. When you stop chasing and start focusing on yourself, you create a space that invites reflection, both for you and for her. As the Stoics remind us, true power comes from within. By channeling your energy into personal growth and fulfillment, you radiate an undeniable confidence. You're no longer seeking validation from others, and that alone makes you magnetic. Like a steady flame, you don't need to chase. Your quiet strength naturally draws others toward you. This isn't a strategy of manipulation. It's an exercise in self-respect. It's about understanding that your worth isn't tied to anyone else's attention. By stepping back, you give her the chance to see what she